Hello and welcome to episode 12 of my YouTube series, How to Do It All, One Mom's Guide to Living Your Dreams Right Where You Are. And thank you all so much for being with me up to this point. Today in episode 12, I want to talk about changing seasons, which I think is something that most of us are very aware of and have probably been through multiple times. So in my last episode, I actually talked about rest and about how easy it is to ignore that integral part of our routine when it comes to planning out our goals. But there's something else that's really easy to miss that I've found it essential to factor in when looking ahead, and that is flexibility. This is another thing that does not come naturally to me at all. If I could personally, I would like to pick a routine or a game plan and stick to it forever and ever. Amen. No changes, no adjustments. But this is simply not feasible in the real world. And never less than in my particular life stage where I have multiple small children. Things are constantly changing, which means that constant adjustments are needed. And so in some seasons I have more time, in others I have less. Sometimes afternoons are free for me to work toward goals. Sometimes they are not. Sometimes I don't know what time will or won't be available. And also newborns aren't exactly known for their reliable nap schedules. So it can just be, who knows what you're going to get. So even without newborns and toddlers and children, however, things change in any life that you're in. Things are going to be changing. Sometimes the changes aren't even external. I've had seasons where suddenly even routine-loving me would find myself becoming bored or burned out on a particular way of doing things. So in the past, I would just stubbornly stick with my previous plan, hoping that if I just kept at it long enough, it would start working again at some point. And this always led to inevitable burnout, which led to a lot of my goals sliding again by the wayside. I'm a slow learner in some ways, but I have finally accepted the truth of this reality. And one way I'm using this knowledge is to actually add flexibility into my plans. Sometimes this is in response to known upcoming changes. For instance, back when I originally wrote this, I knew that in a couple months or so, I was going to have a new baby. And I knew that it was going to be impossible to keep up the same workload that I had at the time. And it's also not what I was going to want to be doing. Like when you have a new baby, you don't want the pressure of like sticking to a certain amount of like productivity and like goals that you have to hit and things like that. So when I sat down and mapped out my plans for that particular year, I left July and a little bit of June and August just mostly blank. No books releasing during those 6 to 8 weeks, no major projects, no looming goals, none of that. And that was going to be a time just for me and baby and for our family to adjust. And that worked out really well. It was very beneficial to just kind of let that time be a time that was really dedicated to recovery and bonding and all the things that are needed with a new baby around. Sometimes, however, it's just not possible to plan it quite as clearly as that. So for this reason, I don't try to plan out everything in a set in stone way, which is kind of the way I would like to do it. I give myself deadlines, but I give myself permission to adjust them when it's truly necessary, not just because I don't feel like working, but if unforeseen circumstances arise. So for instance, again, back at that time when I had a new baby coming, I had to adjust my goals and my workload because it was no longer possible for me to get through the day without a nap. And so I had to use some of my available time for that rest. But even then, instead of just letting things slide, I sat down and made some intentional decisions about priorities. Clearly, with less time available, I would be able to do less things. So what should I choose to work on? At the time, I wanted to keep making progress in my series and to keep up with Kindle Vella. And so I chose those things to focus on and chose to let go of doing much in the way of social media, promotion, blogging, trying to figure out Amazon ads. In this season now, it's a little different with Bella gone and still with limited time. And then again, having more children ends up in more needs that they have. And so my time, again, the amount of time I have shifts. And so I choose which things I'm going to focus on. I'm focusing my series on this YouTube channel. And so being able to look at where you are and to adjust as necessary is very important. And again, that's really hard for me to do. The things like ads, promotion, blogging, whatever. Those are things that I think are important to a writing career. And they're things that I worked hard on at different seasons and then had to let go in others. But those things are not important enough to overwhelm me and give my family a frazzled wife and mom. They're not more important than other goals that I have. And so for now, for the time, they had to fall off the bottom of that list. And not forever. I have gotten back in, as the baby grew, I was able to then, adjust and start doing more promotion again, adjust things. And that's part of being flexible, is knowing when to add those things back in. But again, it's just a season. Seasons change, and being aware of that as you're making plans, factoring that in, super beneficial. So your turn once again. Does flexibility come naturally to you, unlike myself? And if not, how can you change your mindset to see the changes as part of the plan instead of something that interrupts the plan? Also, are there any upcoming life changes for you that will require you to do less or allow you to do more than you're doing now? And how can you anticipate those things as you look ahead and plan out what you would like to accomplish? And then what are some intentional ways that you can build opportunities to be flexible into your daily schedule? Because looking at it from a practical standpoint in that way is, not just having this nebulous need for flexibility in your mind, but actually sitting down saying, what are some intentional ways I can be flexible? What are some, time slots where I can say, oh, that time I'm going to wait and see what I need to do, whatever that looks like for you. Just looking at your day, looking at the available time, looking at the season you're in, and seeing how all those pieces can fit together. So thank you all so much for watching. Please subscribe to this channel, watch the rest of the videos if you haven't, and then I will be with you soon for another episode where we are going to talk about the snowball effect. So again, thank you so much. Hope this is helpful to you.